We went to the hospital, and later that day we found out that she no longer had a heartbeat. When she comes out, if I can just like skin to skin contact, like maybe if she
Mhm,
can just feel me, God, like,
mhm, mhm,
I'm
mhm.
thinking you'll do a miracle.
How do you process the second loss with faith?
It's okay if I cry. It's okay if I,
Mhm.
share my story.
We forget how to humanize the experiences of human beings.
I'm emotionally not stable to go to a baby shower right now.
As you're going through the process, you're realizing so many gaps in our care system.
And that's when it was revealed to me. God was like, you need to start an organization.
Revelation after revelation. If you or someone you know have been affected by pregnancy loss, this is a must-see as our special guest, Trinity Brown, takes us through her journey of revelation, healing, and commission. She lays out a path for you in your own journey and shares at the very end in-depth ways in which we as a community can help families and ways in which her organization is doing the same. We thank you for watching, and don't forget to do what? Click subscribe.
Something's wrong. I told her
Mm-hmm.
that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just like, no, maybe she's just sleeping, so I'm drinking ice cold water.
Mm-hmm.
She's still
Mm-hmm.
not moving. At
Mm-hmm.
this point, we're both big, me and her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, there's not much space for her to go. I'm 5'1". I'm not, I'm stretched
Mm-hmm.
out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, mm, something's wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
it's when I found out, we went to the hospital, and later that day we found out that she no longer had a heartbeat. And I
Wow.
was later induced that day. And I went through another labor and delivery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was,
Wow. Whew, so much to unpack. So
yeah,
much to unpack. Did you process the loss any differently?
I definitely did process the loss differently, because so many people knew.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people had bought things and they were excited for her to come, and she was named. And it definitely, I processed it differently in the fact that, one, in the beginning I needed to be strong, so I was trying to be strong for everyone as they were coming into the rooms before I delivered her. And I'm like, it's okay, I'm comforting everyone, because
And that's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I need them to know that I'm okay, and I need them to be okay. So I'm telling everyone, it's okay. Don't cry. Don't
Mm-hmm.
cry, before I'm, you know, about to go and, deliver her. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
laying in bed and induced. And I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, and this is just me being completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a woman of faith. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm laying in the bed, and I'm like, God, like, if I can just, when she comes out, if I can just like skin to skin contact, like maybe if she
Mm-hmm.
can just feel me, God, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking you'll do a miracle.
Yeah, so you're still hopeful, right? You're still
There's
holding
still
on.
this,
You're
yeah,
still
there's
holding on
still
to this
this
hope.
hope.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, God, I know you do miracles.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I'm still holding on to that, and I'm still
Mm-hmm.
like telling everyone it's okay, it's okay. And I go into labor. They tell me,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you're not going to have her until about 18 hours."
Mm-hmm.
My body was like, "No, no."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My full delivery was probably about 5 hours after being induced.
Wow.
And so my
Mhm.
doctors were like, "Okay, next time you get pregnant, you better get your butt right here."
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
quick,
Because you labor quickly. Yeah.
yeah. And so that was a whole nother thing. I
Right.
went into labor so much faster than what they expected. I wasn't in a delivery bed when
Mm-hmm.
I delivered her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they really did not expect you to go that quickly. And to your point, there is a it clearly everybody's body's different. Not everyone's body responds or follows the textbook, so to speak.
Right.
And so in theory, it oftentimes is a very difficult birth, because there is a factor in terms of the motion of the baby moving through the birth canal that you lose that added power and movement. And so it is literally just the power of your
Of
uterus
you.
that's progressing the labor through. So it's literally just your body. You don't have the assistance of your baby to help you through this process. So for oftentimes for a lot of people, it is a very long process. Induction, even in live birth induction, it can be very long, but especially sometimes when you have a stillborn, it can be very difficult because of the lack of that additional power and movement. I'm thankful that you mentioned the fact that you were being strong for everyone else. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially women of color. We tend to sort of hold ourselves to that expectation of being strong. Now we're trying to enter into our soft era, so to speak.
Right.
But there's so many people who feel like I have to, and that's what I was mentioning when I mentioned about helping other people's heal, because people are mourning and they're mourning and they're compassionate, right? So that's their expression of love for you, their disappointment for you. That sometimes even the weight of that is heavy when you're carrying the weight of your own loss and disappointment. So what have you learned about strength now, looking back, hindsight on that experience?
Personally, for me, looking back on that, I'm like, and I tell my families now that I work with, I'm like, your strength is whether you're crying, like to be weak and vulnerable is strength. Like, you are strong. Like, you do not have to hold it in. Being able to be vulnerable is strength. Like, people don't look at it in that way, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able, you can't heal if you're not able to allow yourself to let it out. And so many of us are continuing to hold all of this stuff inside of us, whether it's anger, it's sadness, all of these emotions are pent up inside of us. And we think that we're being strong, but in
Mm-hmm.
reality, we're not, because all we're doing is causing more stress. We're causing more elements in our body to be impacted, and we don't
Right.
realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I try to tell them strength is being able to let it out, being able to cry, being able to express yourself and say how you're feeling. That is strength. And I started to get my strength after going through my loss, after doing my research and understanding what pregnancy and infant loss, how common it is, the research behind it. That's when I started to get my strength and be able to tell my story and be able to be actually begin the healing process. And that's where I found my strength, being able to go through it step by step. And then that's when I was like, no, this is strength. Like, I am strong now. Like, it's okay if I cry. It's okay if I,
Mm-hmm.
share my story. It's okay if I can let someone else cry and hug them and be empathetic and sympathetic towards them. That
Mm-hmm.
is my strength. And that's where I connect the most with people. And that is where I find my strength. And so looking back, I'm like, I wasn't being strong. I was, actually, that was like a weakness of mine, but I was trying to cover it up. And that was
Mm-hmm.
my coping mechanism of,
Mm-hmm.
if I don't do this, I'm going to fall apart. People are going to look at me as
Mm-hmm.
less than, people are going to look at me as weak. But
Mm-hmm.
who told you that you need to carry that?
Right,
And
right,
who
right,
told you? Like, I don't know
right.
why I believed that. I felt like
And so many of
I
us do,
cried
right?
that,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to be letting all of these people down. In
Mm-hmm.
reality, now I'm like, hey, I can't go to that. I'm emotionally not, I would start telling people I'm emotionally not stable to go to a baby shower right now. Thank you
Wow.
for
Mm-hmm.
inviting me, but I
Mm-hmm.
just can't do it right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just not there. Or, hey, I had to leave. It really was affecting me. And that's where I found my strength, being able to vocalize my emotions and my feelings when before I wouldn't do it. I would just go. Oh, you invited me. Okay,
And then deal with it,
I have to
right?
go and deal with it later behind closed doors. Now
Hmm.
I'm like, no, I can't do that. Sorry.
Oh, I love that though. I love that empowerment of sort of protecting and creating healthy boundaries for yourself, right? And understanding that when we have traumatic experiences, that we do have to do that. And you're not always going to feel that way. There may be a time that you will be able to go to the baby shower, but it's okay if you're not ready. And it's okay if you say no, right? And if it's someone who's inviting you to their shower, they should be someone who loves and cares for you and would understand that it is not that time yet and support you in
Right.
that decision. So I love that you're freeing women to understand that. You mentioned also that you're women of faith because I do want to get into the amazing work that you're doing. I'm trying to follow your recovery course here because I'm learning so many jewels with your own experience. Um, because you're a woman of faith, right? And you have this connection to God, you have conversations, it looks like, with God, you communicate with God. How do you process? Because this is something a lot of women go through. How do you process the second loss with faith? Right? Because now you're in a special group because we know about the large group that has the 1 in 4 that have these early pregnancy losses, may have one loss. The far majority will go on to have a normal next pregnancy. Their rainbow child will be here. How do you process that second loss where you're like, okay, God, can we have a conversation?
Absolutely. So the first time I was angry with God, and I was like, I just can't pray to you right now. And just being
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
completely honest, like,
Mm-hmm.
there's people, I'm comparing myself. This Susie Joe over there, she don't even
Right.
take care of her kids, and
Right.
you got this one who's on drugs, and you know,
Mm-hmm. And let me
and
tell you, they pop them out.
I
They
mean,
do.
and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh God, what? You don't think I'm a good enough mother?
Right.
So
Hmm.
I went through that and I was like, okay, the first time.
Hmm.
Then the second time came around. This one was a little bit different for me
Hmm.
because that day when I was in, before I woke up and I didn't feel her moving, I went in the shower and I would play worship music. And that morning I said, God, when I put on this music, because she would normally go to town when I put on the
Hmm.
worship music, I said,
Hmm.
when I put this music on and she doesn't start moving, I know you've taken her and she's gone to be with you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I put that music on
Hmm.
and she didn't move.
And
So
so that's how you knew.
I knew immediately that she was no longer here. But when I got to the hospital,
Hmm.
I still had that faith, mustard
Hmm.
seed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was
Yep.
like,
That's very real. Hmm. You're
okay,
like,
God,
you
like
said
I was like,
mustard
I know
seed.
she's gone, but you've
Hmm.
risen people from the dead.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
No heartbeat, but I can still deliver her and you can make her breathe again.
Hmm.
So I'm still holding on to that.
Hmm.
But as I'm laying in bed, I'm like praying. So everyone's coming in, and in my mind, I'm really not paying people attention because I'm also physically in pain because I'm
Hmm.
contracting, but
Hmm.
emotionally heartbreak. And the emotional heartbreak is
Hmm.
far more exceeding than my physical pain.
Hmm.
And I didn't even get an epidural. So
Wow.
I like my heartbreak was just so heavy that my doctor's like, you're
That
not
the
gonna
physical pain wasn't even like your heartbreak was so great that you didn't even really feel as much the physical pain of labor. Like you felt it,
I
but
felt
you
it,
weren't
but
really feeling it. You know what I mean?
right. And so I was like, God, like, and me and God had this moment, and I was like, okay, God, like, he and this may not be for everyone. And I'm not saying this is exactly why he took my daughter. So don't run
Mhm,
off and be like, well,
mhm.
Trinity said this is why. No, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
This is
no,
your
no,
personal
no.
relationship with God, and hopefully
Yes.
everybody else have their personal relationships.
And for me, and I was still searching, but for me in that moment in time, I knew God told me,
Hmm.
this is not your husband.
Oh, okay.
As the
Mhm. You're like, wait a minute.
well,
You
why
could
you
have
take
sent me a memo.
so
You
I
could have,
wasn't, I'm
listen,
like, but why take me to 36 weeks? So
right.
that wasn't enough for me.
Like God, like I
You
could
could
have
have
sent a
told me
memo.
that
You
in
could text message me. You could send me an email. You know my passwords. You don't even need to send from an actual account. Like you could send your profits from like back in the day. I'm sure there's an
there's
Elijah today.
so many things. So
Right.
I'm like, well, that wasn't, so I'm like, okay, I'm holding on to that, but I'm like, that's not
Mm-hmm.
enough for me. Like, I still don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So after we go through the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
finally I'm at home and I'm on leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I saved up all my vacation time. So because I planned on spending time with my daughter, so I was on leave for 5 months
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I saved my vacation.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And in that time, I prayed and I was doing research.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter was born on October 14th, 2017. I'm
Oh.
researching
Uh-huh.
and I realized Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month is in October. International Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day is October 15th. And I'm like, what? God, like, what are
Mm.
you,
Like,
what are you
what
trying to
is this?
show me? What is this? And so
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
researched, I live in Bakersfield, California. I'm looking for support groups. I worked in a mental health, CSUB, I worked in mental health for
Oh,
counseling.
that's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so that was like my background. So I'm searching for
Uh-huh.
support counseling
Right, right.
groups,
So you know what resources you should have and have access to, and you know that there is
and
a
there's
that's
nothing,
okay. That it's okay to seek support. Right. Okay.
and there was nothing. So I'm like praying, and I'm like, God, what am I supposed to do? And that's when it was revealed to me. God was like, you need to start an organization. And I went to my mom and dad and I said, hey, I'm starting a nonprofit. It's going to be called the Noel Alexandria Foundation. I literally wrote everything down on pen and paper. I was broke. I had no money because I just paid for everything in her nursery, my
Right, right.
medical bills. I just paid for a funeral. And my parents were like, how are you going to do this? And I said, Dad, all I need is $500 to get me started. And I'm going to start a run in October. This was in July. They were
Hmm.
like, oh, next October. I said, no, no,
You're like, no, like
this
this year.
October, this year.
Wow.
And that's where God started moving for me. And I said, okay, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to believe and trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And I started the organization in July, and we didn't have it wasn't a nonprofit yet. I just
Mm-hmm.
started a run in
Mm-hmm.
memorial to help fund the paperwork so I could get the funds for the paperwork to become a nonprofit. I had businesses become sponsors without me even being a nonprofit.
Wow.
And the first run, we had 200 people there.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to trust you, God. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what, however difficult it gets, I'm going to trust you. I believe this is what you've called me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going on year 7 of the Noel
Wow.
Alexandria Foundation. And this October is our 7th annual 5K Running with the Angels event. And nothing but God.
Then listen, say that again. Tell us about the 5K run.
It is a 5K run. It's a fundraiser to help us do what we do far as financial services to help with funerals, burials, cremations for families, our support groups, educational workshops. everything that we do is free for our families, and it helps fund us throughout the year. It's also a memorial where we honor the babies that have passed away. And so we do a butterfly release and a rose and a whole ceremony for those babies. And that takes place every year, second Saturday of October. And this is our seventh year doing it. And it's for
Wow.
family, friends, anyone, the whole community. We have people that do drive down from LA that come and participate in this event. We are looking to start expanding it as it's, growing. And so, yeah, this is our seventh year. My daughter would be
Congratulations.
seven this year. So,
That is amazing. And you mentioned, I think, area that people aren't aware about that even I, as a clinician, had to really learn because they don't teach us this, like how to help women on the opposite end, right? After you've had the loss, you have this human being, then what happens?
right. And so that was what I was searching for. I was like, what do I do? My body is still responding as if
Mm-hmm.
my baby's physically here.
Mm-hmm.
I look like you know the trauma that happened to me, so it's like, what do you do after that? And that's where I really was like, okay, I want to step in and support these families. And there's really no resources in the hospital. They literally come in, you get your baby, you get to look at your baby. Oh, they'll take some pictures if you want. And then you're rolled out of the hospital and they're like, hey, you have 24, 48 hours. Do you want to bury? Do you want to cremate your baby? And what funeral or mortuary home is going to pick up your baby? And you're still processing all of this on top of, the physical things that are happening. And I just, and as I was praying, I was like, okay, I know I can't be the only person that's going through this. And I was
Mm-hmm.
blessed and fortunate to have family and friends to help me pay for the funeral services because I've been off work.
Right,
My state
right,
disability, because my
right.
job paid into disability, I was only getting $1,000 a month.
How costly is this for women?
It depends on what you decide to go with. So if you're wanting to do a cremation, it's a lot less expensive. So you
Mm-hmm.
can look at anywhere between 300 to maybe $1,500. That's depending on, you know, the certificates that they have to have in order to cremate the urn, and sometimes they want to hold a ceremony or service for their baby
Mm-hmm.
as well, a homegoing. And sometimes if they had to transport the baby, so depending on transportation, sometimes the babies are in Madeira at the children's hospital, or, they
Mm-hmm.
delivered somewhere else. So then they have to transport the baby. So
Mm-hmm.
those expenses can vary. Burials can go anywhere from 2,500 to $10,000. I mean, on top
Mm-hmm.
of your medical bills, because those don't go away.
Right,
And
right.
then for me, I had just did a whole baby shower.
Mm-hmm.
I've had families that we've worked with who bought new cars because their
Because they were
families were
expected
planning
to,
to
right.
expand and grow. And so now they have this additional expense, and on top of planning a funeral and their medical bills. And then some families are high risk, so they've been off of work for X amount of time. And it was just, devastating. But I'm so thankful that we're able to assist families, not only here in Kern County, but we help, nationwide. And so any families that want to reach out to us, we try to assist them as much as we can financially. Support groups are in person and held via Zoom. And so that's where we see a lot of healing and a lot of growth, because people feel isolated and alone, and they're going through the grieving process by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we really see them connecting, even dads, because we hold them for dads and moms as well.
Why
So
was that important to you?
everyone would, so my daughter's biracial, and
Mm-hmm.
her dad is Hispanic,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone would like, especially his family, because there's some cultural things, and they would be like, "Oh, let her rest," or "Stop crying, let her rest." Like, she's resting, she's in heaven.
Mm. Oh, they're meaning your daughter.
Yeah, because we keep
Oh.
crying, we're not
Mm-hmm.
letting her rest. I'm like, no, she's resting.
Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
there were things that were being said,
Mm-hmm.
um, and people that were just checking in on me and not necessarily checking in on him.
Mm-hmm. Which a lot of people do. A lot culturally, that's
Yes.
what we do.
And
Yeah.
so that was triggering for me. And I was like, no, the men go through this too, and he's at the doctor's appointments. He's seen the heartbeat,
He's
he cut
bonding.
her umbilical cord. He
Mm-hmm.
dressed her like he went through this whole experience with me too. So to just say, hey, no, we're just going to be concerned about the mother because you physically saw me. He was bonding just as well. I recently saw a study that said that the men, they may not show the same grief symptoms, but they
Mm-hmm.
become detached
Mm-hmm.
from work, or
Yes.
their grief and their sadness and anxiety increases, or what family looks like changes for them, internally for them. And we don't look at those things. And of course, they're not, if they vocalize it and if they're crying, they're not man enough,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to be strong and tough for us
Mm-hmm.
because we're going through so much. And that's where I just wanted to let the men know, like, hey, we care about you too, and we're here, and we know that you're going through it as well. It may look different,
Mm-hmm.
but we are
Yeah.
inclusive in that way, as well.
And have the men responded, because it's one thing for you to have that awareness, which I think is amazing, because a lot of people don't, like I said, societally, just not even there yet. So, how have the men been receptive to having this option or availability for support?
We're still predominantly a, a woman support group.
Mm-hmm.
However, we do outings as well. So where the fathers come, and that's when you really see the men bonding with each other. They get some one-on-one time with each other, which encourages them then to come to the groups together. And
Okay.
so you'll see where the men are coming with their wives, or you'll see them more at the outings, not necessarily coming to the one-on-one support group, or not one-on-one, but the support groups as much as the moms. But you
Mm-hmm.
will see that some of them do come,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're definitely always at the outings, and that's where you kind of see them connecting more and feeling more comfortable to see other men. So when they see other men, they're more likely to come and have conversations and
Mm-hmm.
connect with each other. But there is still that stigma of,
Yeah.
you need to be tough, you need to be strong for
Right.
your family. And
Right.
so it's definitely trying to break down those barriers and those stigmas of, you
Mm-hmm.
know, healing.
Yeah.
So
I think that's amazing. I mean, so you have this incredible organization, this incredible nonprofit that's doing healing work. So you're in the healing industry, is what I'm gonna say, right?
yes.
Um, what is the hope you want to bring to women who are currently experiencing the same loss? They may now have gone through the process of completing the pregnancy, or women who have gone through it and have not dealt with it. What is the hope your organization brings to them, and what is the hope you would want to leave with them?
So my hope is, one is for there to be more awareness. I think the lack of awareness and the lack of education is what brings it, that makes it feel so much more devastating and makes it more isolating, to where you feel like you're in this alone. And I just want families to know you're not in this alone. And I think the more education and more awareness that we bring to this subject and topic, because as a woman of color, we know we are the highest in everything, 2 to 3 times more likely to have fetal demises, infant mortalities, maternal mortalities. Our rates just it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Hmm.
And it's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But
And we may bring her back if she would honor us to talk about that part. But
yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
And so I think for me, I think that was the most devastating, like it happened to me. Like,
Right. Right.
how? And I
Yeah.
think once we also start having more communication, education, and awareness, because I went back and started looking through my medical records and
Hmm.
was like, oh, well, they never told me about this. Maybe this was
Right.
why.
Right. 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 Right.
And I
Yeah. Yeah.
think
I love that. I
once
love that you did that, by the way. Hmm.
we bring it together and we have this community,
Hmm.
then we are able to connect and advocate for each other. So that is another important thing for me is to help my families advocate when they want to move on to have successful live births, and also for them to get through the healing journey knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this alone. It's not going to
Hmm.
be easy.
Hmm.
Grief is not linear.
No.
You're going to be triggered by, I one year I woke up and I'm like, Noel would be going to kindergarten, and I'm seeing everyone's Instagram photos and
Right.
my babies. So you're going to go through all of these highs and lows, but you don't have to
Hmm.
do it alone. And I think that's the biggest thing, and just learning how to cope and setting those boundaries, understanding what triggers you and what are healthy boundaries for you. And that's what we're here to like help with, to set those boundaries, whether it's
Hmm.
at work, at home,
Hmm.
any of those relationships. And then just ultimately reducing the amount of losses that we're having. I mean, we know, if I'm not mistaken, is it 60% of these are preventable? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the lack
And
of
the things that we and the
education.
things that we and the things that we do a lot of hasn't really been shown to help, like NSTs, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I was
Um,
looking at
yeah.
that, and
Hmm.
the US compared to other nations,
Yeah.
our rates haven't reduced in decades. What are we
No.
doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It a lot that we're not doing. So on that note, I'm going to represent the healthcare system because I do. What do you want the healthcare system to like? You've been through the recovery, you've been through the process. While we're fixing some institutional things that needs to be fixed, that has led to disparities that we're seeing in terms of the actual care of the woman. What do you want to say to the healthcare system that we need to do better when it comes to caring about women that are going through or have experienced pregnancy or infant loss?
Oh man, there's so many things. There was a lack of education for me when and I sit on the our fetal infant mortality review committee here for Kern County, and I always tell them, where was the education? Lack of education, from going home to breast being engorged,
Mm-hmm.
sutures still in, and being immobile, and just not understanding that your body's still going to go through all of these things. The lack of mental health services, checking in after for your 6 week checkup in a main lobby with all these other expectant mothers. How triggering is that? It's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's
Giving
something that's been a hot topic recently. Mm-hmm.
giving birth, and then having to hear a baby cry right next to you. Move me, please.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, and these are just some of the small, these don't take a lot. These are small things. And really, I think we become, and I've even recognized it in myself because I've been doing the work for
Mm-hmm.
7 years now. but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we become desensitized to it,
Yeah.
just becomes a part of our job,
Mm-hmm.
and we are not listening or asking the patients, what do you need from us?
Yeah.
And how can we better support you? Stop overloading us with information. I mean, I got a box full of information
Mm-hmm.
that I was not that was not helpful. Let's minimize the information that you're giving. Don't overwhelm us. We're already trying to figure out funeral services, our bodies, all of these things. Minimize the information, try to reduce it. Have
Mm-hmm.
someone checking in after you experience your loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Gosh, there's so many things as you're going through the
Yeah, as you're
process.
going through the process, you're realizing so many gaps in our care system. Oh my gosh. Well, you have certainly left us with a lot of pearls, a lot of just great insight as to what it's like to walk in the shoes of a woman who's experienced loss of early pregnancy loss, late third trimester loss. And the unique experiences that they are, not one greater than the other, just completely unique walks.
Right.
So I definitely appreciate you sharing that and bringing to light some of the things I can even do as a provider on a non-structural level, that like the waiting room area and being conscientious of that, like even scheduling the patients first so that they can be in and out, or scheduling them at the end of the day so they're less likely to encounter these triggers.
Dr. Moore, I almost forgot. Also,
Uh-huh.
flagging the charge and being aware that this mother just experienced a loss. I walked in to my 6 week appointment checkup and they said, "Oh, congratulations. Can we see your baby?"
Oh,
I don't know how many times I've had mothers also tell me the same
hmm,
experience. And
yeah,
I'm just like, why isn't there, as soon as you open it up, there should be an alert that says something to where
100%.
you're flagged. I
100%.
mean,
100%. 100% agree. 100% agree.
and I got to the point where I just started showing people my baby. I would be like, here she is.
Oh, did you really? But no, but you're right. Like, we have to be more conscious providers. Like, at some
Right.
point, we become, like you said, so callous, repetitive. It becomes so mundane that we forget how to humanize the experiences of human beings. And so that, I think, is an important thing for us to just even use as an example of how simple it is to trigger someone, and how simple it is that you can also heal someone by
Right.
being compassionate from the moment they step off the elevator or come up the stairs or whatever into your office, that you're already so conscious of them that they can feel like you see them, right? Like, I'm
Absolutely.
seeing, like, that I went through an experience that's hurtful, that's harmful, or painful, I should say, and you're consciously making an effort to help me in that journey. That makes a difference. And it doesn't really take a lot of resources to do that. Now, there are certainly some policies we need to change, like
Right.
leave after pregnancy loss. We'll talk about that. There are systematic things that need to be done that are going to take a lot more resources and effort. But these examples that you've left us with are very, very doable and feasible, and can make the world of a difference in someone's healing journey.
Absolutely.
So listen, Trinity, we don't need to follow you. So how can we learn some more pearls from you from the medical side and also receive your healing services? How can we find you?
So you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We have two Instagram pages because someone hacked us earlier this year. But it's Noel Alexandria Foundation, and then the other one is Noel Alexandria Foundation underscore. We can also find us on our website, noelalexandriafoundation.org. And same for Facebook, it's Noel Alexandria Foundation. We're also on, was it Twitter?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Whatever
LinkedIn. Um,
XYZ we call it
yeah,
nowadays.
Noel Alexandria Foundation. You can find us there. We are also available through email, through, text messaging. Our families, they text us. It doesn't matter the time, day, or night. I mean, we are there. Even I have healthcare providers that will text me and say, "Hey, I just had a family that went through a loss. Can you help me? I have a new nurse on staff. She needs resources," or um, contact us. I mean, my phone is with me 24/7. The foundation's number comes directly to me after hours, even during hours sometimes. And
Mhm.
so I'm very responsive. Even if you just have questions, reach out to us. We're able to help and assist any way that we can. And everyone's healing journey is different.
Mhm.
Everyone's not going to be like me. Everyone's not going to start an organization or a foundation
Mhm.
or,
Mhm.
and it
Mhm.
may take years for people to start their healing journey, and that's okay too. We just need to be cognizant of what it is that they want and be respectful of their decisions of how they want to go through their healing process.
I'm glad you said that because I wanted to ask you before we go, if I had a loss 10 years ago and I'm realizing I haven't healed through that loss, can I still reach out to you guys?
Absolutely. We have had families that have had losses like 17 years ago, and there was nothing there. I mean,
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
daughter's 7, there was no resources. So we've helped families with headstones for people who, experienced loss years ago. We've helped them with that as well. We've helped them with they've attended our support groups. We recently started something this year here with some of the local cemeteries, and we did a flag placement, a flag tribute at the local cemeteries. So then families are also aware we're honoring those babies that passed away at the cemetery. So those flags are up for the whole month. So if there's things like that that you would like in your city, or that you would like to start, or you're 10 years ago this happened to you, or 17 years ago, reach out to us. You can still join us. You can be a part of it. We don't turn anyone away.
Okay,
And
be
we're
careful
here.
when you say that though, because we have an international audience
Yes, yes,
and some of
absolutely.
them may take you at your word.
Absolutely, and I want them to. We are here to support all families, and so I definitely want to. Now we can't guarantee that we'll always have all of the funding,
Mhm.
but based on our funding, we support and try to do whatever we can with anyone and everyone. So, and all of our services are free. There's no cost for our families.
That is wonderful. Listen, when I tell you she's doing the Lord's work, listen, she done had our conversation with Jesus. They're out here doing the Lord's work, okay? No hesitation, full force, and saving lives and healing hearts and helping people, which is just amazing. Talk about strength. Now that's the strength. When you take your pain and you turn it into purpose,
Absolutely.
that is
That's
strength, right?
that's
That is.
our goal.
Listen, like you said, and nothing but the Lord is nothing but the
I
Lord.
mean, it's nothing but the Lord. I mean, to be able to go back into like some of the same areas that I experienced my loss, that I gave birth, and to go into these hospitals and to
Mhm.
go in with these families and to see their babies and to be able to walk them through the process, talk to them, hold their hands through it all. I mean, I didn't even realize the strength that I had and the love that I had to love
Beautiful.
on these people, on these families, and to be able to support them in this way. Like, I would have never thought that I would be doing this.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Dr. T, the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bum Club right here on YouTube, and the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bum Club on Instagram and also on fan base. We thank you guys for joining us today. We thank you so much to the Noel Alexandria Foundation and their prize CEO who's doing amazing work. Trinity, we thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope that you guys will see us when? The next episode.